Hey, what's up, New Zealand and the world? Lucas Lawman's Kiwi Voice. Thanks for taking the time to tune in as we're back on air after a short break. I really appreciate all the super supportive and amazing comments that came my way when I said I was going to do that. Well, there's been a lot going on this week. We've got a lot to get through. So tonight we're going to take a look at a recent law change that was pushed through using Labour's current majority that ensures Ngai Tahu will always have two representatives on Environment Canterbury. So the regional council there, the Canterbury Regional Council, Ngai Tahu Representation Bill. Nanaia Mahuta's movements with China. We're going to take a look at that as American Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi deliberately ratchets up tensions in a truly narcissistic and self-serving trip to Taiwan. It's also going to be potentially flat out dangerous, so we'll take a look at that. We comment on Chris Bishop's recent comments around the vaccination mandates and how he thinks they should be dropped for healthcare. Cover upcoming protest activity with our healthcare workers, fire and emergency workers, our fire heroes, as I've noted here, and the Freedom and Rights Coalition, all staging action in the coming days and weeks. Okay, no more mucking around. Let's get amongst it. The ECAN law change. So stuff was its usual Labour-serving self with a sensational headline, historic moment as Parliament votes to allow Ngai Tahu to choose Environment Canterbury appointees. Further down the article, though, it did begin to quote opposing views, closing out with, to provide context, the Māori Affairs Select Committee received almost 1,700 submissions on this bill earlier this year. Opposing submissions centred mainly on claims that appointing iwi members would be undemocratic, divisive, lead to conflicts of interest, or create a Māori elite or a form of apartheid. So I won't go into too much detail around Stuff's coverage there. This is another divisive issue similar to co-governance, etc. on Three Waters. Radio New Zealand was a little more balanced and factual in their headlines, so let's take a look at that. Radio New Zealand reports new law gives Ngai Tahu the right to appoint two ECAN councillors. Ngai Tahu will get guaranteed representation and decision-making powers on the Canterbury Regional Council. A bill ensuring two Ngai Tahu members sit on the council passed its third reading in Parliament on Wednesday night. As the bill was passed, waiata and haka rang out across the House from the public gallery. Some 40 representatives of Ngai Tahu, including Kaumātua Tā Te Pene Oregon, were at Parliament to celebrate. Forgive me if I've misrepresented that. The Canterbury Regional Council Ngai Tahu Representation Bill means that iwi's runanga can appoint two councillors with full voting rights to the council. This is us finally being at the table and finally being able to be part of the decision-making, said Liz Brown, who co-chairs the Te Raupu Tuea Collective, which represents the 10 Papatipu runanga within the regional council's boundaries. However, National MP Paul Goldsmith, he has been the leading sort of dissenting voice from the opposition parties in Parliament. He echoed a lot of what the opposition to this bill are thinking, both on Chris Lynch, really good 12-minute interview, I think they're worth going to check out, in a detailed interview, and also in Radio New Zealand. National's Justice spokesperson Goldsmith was furious, calling the bill anti-democratic. While the 14 councillors will be voted in or out at each local election, the two Ngai Tahu representatives are not bound at all by the same ballot. Now, just to make a point there, Ngai Tahu say 74,000 members will be voting these two people in, and they will be rigorous, just to get their side of the story. Goldsmith said the government was undermining the basic principles that all New Zealanders have equal voting rights and accountability at the ballot box. That's a very big and fundamental thing to actually explain to New Zealanders. Why they think equal voting rights for all New Zealanders is no longer appropriate, as he's saying in this instance, and why they think that basic accountability measures in New Zealand politics, which is to say every 3 years you can be thrown out if you're not up to scratch. Why that basic discipline is being abandoned for those two council seats, he's asking that question. National has pledged to repeal this legislation if it wins at the next election, but which, based on recent polls, is not that much of a sure thing as it was potentially a month or 2 months ago. Labour MP Tampati Coffey, who tried to get a similar bill through in Rotorua but failed, has put out a pānui to other iwi. stating that this change sets a precedent and displays a pathway that others could take or should take. To me, it feels as though Labour is on this mission to get as many of these divisive policies through as they can that they believe in strongly, while they still have this massive majority. I'm fairly certain they know it's going to disappear for them next year. If you do want to know more about these changes, hit up the ECAN website. It's probably the most unbiased and just factual information source for this, regardless of the fact that they did take it with a grain of salt. They did support this bill, ECAN, and have been heavily involved in the promotion of the success of the bill going into place. But check out, they do give you a breakdown of what the mana whenua representation all means. Okay, moving on to what the actual fuck is going on with the USA, Taiwan, China, and little old New Zealand. Yes, New Zealand is sticking its beak, as I would put it, once again, with New Zealand into these issues, into these global issues, with New Zealand Foreign Affairs and Trade website stating, Foreign Minister Nanaia Mahuta's meeting in Phnom Penh with China's State Councillor and Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi, 4th of August 2022, so that's yesterday. Now, let's link these two together, so we'll put it into some context first. Firstly, Nancy Pelosi, the current USA Speaker of the House, has become the highest-ranking official to visit the Taiwanese government and essentially acknowledge them as an independent state from mainland China since 1997, which, for those of you not up with global affairs, it's a very bad thing for your relations with China and the CCP, whichever way you look at it, economically, militarily, or otherwise. Essentially, it really pisses them off, as they have indicated so many times in the recent past. They see it as a threat and have warned repeatedly of escalations in military action in and around the Taiwanese Strait, the body of water between mainland China and Taiwan. Pelosi, in my opinion only, is wary of her legacy, such as the visit, as she tips over 80 and is almost guaranteed to be gone next election. You would think sanity prevails based on all polls over in the US. She's going to be gone. And has made the extraordinarily narcissistic and vain move to complete the trip against warnings from her own administration. Even old puppet Biden is actually warning against this, and the aforementioned warnings of escalation from China. Worst possible time to be doing it as well, you could probably say, for absolutely zero gain. In fact, the security to get her there has cost the US taxpayer $90 million. That's US military security. Yep, you heard that right. As reported by multiple alternate news outlets here and in the US. Now, as I've stated before on Kiwi Voice, while I understand the importance, both militarily and economically, of keeping good relations with our larger country military partners, US, not partners, countries, China, US, Russia, etc. You just got to play diplomacy there. My thoughts are that it is better for all here in these situations if we as a tiny nation of 5 million people, free Kiwis down on an island nation, down the bottom of the world, stay out of the vast majority of these larger international conflicts. We've got nothing to really add militarily. And it's all, we're not going to be involved in any strategic moves per se. So I think stay out of it, stay away from the conflict. However, Nanaia Mahuta is straight over to visit the Chinese foreign minister, as I stated previously. Now, not only is she doing this, but she's thinking we have any kind of sway, and she stated the following to these high-ranking Chinese officials. The minister restated Aotearoa New Zealand's interest in peace and stability in the region, sure, including across the Taiwan Strait, and emphasised the importance of de-escalation, diplomacy and dialogue. 100%. Yep, I'm down with that. However, the minister urged China to be clear, in line with its commitment to the UN Charter, that it does not support Russia's unlawful aggression against Ukraine, and encouraged China to use its access and influence with Russia to promote a return to diplomacy. The minister accepted Minister Wang Yi's invitation to visit China when conditions allowed. So trying to throw our weight around, what weight do we have? Absolutely none is my opinion. Again, we should be staying out of this. Although I agree with the sentiments first purported in her statement there, that we should be looking for every kind of de-escalation, diplomacy and dialogue where we can. However, rushing over there at this time to meet with China's diplomatic officials and making these statements seems out of place to me. While China is firing missiles through and over the Taiwanese Strait, you want them to turn and face those missiles towards us? I don't really think you do, Nanaia Mahuta. But at any rate, we'll carry on back home domestically as the madness of the healthcare vaccine mandate continues. National MP Chris Bishop has called for them to be dropped. Now, Chris Bishop has been the most openly vocal anti-mandate voice from either of the two major parties, I'll give him that much, and continues that stance saying we should essentially get rid of the mandates in our public health system for nurses and midwives, for example. We've got a desperate shortage of both, and at a time when the health system is in real crisis and there is significant pressure on the system, to have a few hundred nurses and midwives simply not able to work because they are not vaccinated or haven't had a booster, we don't think that's a good enough reason. I'm 100% on board with you on that point there, Chris. He said it should be enough for unvaccinated workers to do rapid antigen tests before going to work instead, which is what Nurses for Freedom are advocating for as a way to get them back into work that they would love to do. Will his words have any impact, though, and push through the inevitable decision, or push forward the inevitable decision to drop these bloody mandates that are doing nothing but continuing to hurt people and divide New Zealand society and social dialogue? Now, upcoming protest action. Heaps coming up. Multiple good causes that you may or may not want to be involved in and support. However, Nurses for Freedom are having a National Action Day on the 31st of August, 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Head over to www.nursesforfreedomnz.weebly.com/events for details of locations. Now, exact locations will be advised the day prior to the protests. Fairly standard sort of move there when organising such a thing to avoid any kind of quashing of dissent, I would say. Announced today also NZPFU, so New Zealand Professional Firefighters Union, as you will know if you're a regular viewer of Kiwi Voice, we 1,000% support these heroes and any action that they are taking to try and get better pay, better conditions, more staff, better equipment, all of that stuff, so they can continue to do their heroic job. NZPFU strike action has been confirmed for Friday, August 19, as reported today, and Friday, August 26, between 11 a.m. and 12 noon, so 1 hour on each day. They have advised they will ensure that emergencies will still be attended. Keep an eye on www.firecrisis.nz for details. Yes, I still add in the www, I know. You don't have to. The Freedom and Rights Coalition have had a crapload of mainstream media coverage due to the standard smears and links to the leaders and founders. They have confirmed they are marching in Auckland this weekend. We will be touching base with either Brian Tamaki or Derek Tate tomorrow at the protest is the plan. That is preliminary at this stage, but we hope to get them live from the protest tomorrow. The Kiwi Patriots Day in March, starting at 11 a.m. at the Auckland Domain. I encourage you to get along if that's something that you do believe in and wish to support, but stay peaceful, stay free, stay peaceful, and enjoy a well-organised, calm, inclusive protest. That's all from us here at Kiwi Voice. Really appreciate you taking the time to tune in and hang out with us. Chuck in the comments below anything you think is worthy. Get amongst the conversation team. Be respectful and tolerant in there. Share these links around if you feel the need to do so, if you think it's worthy. It's awesome getting back amongst it, although not so awesome seeing some of these moves from our leaders, but we'll continue to cover it as best we can. For now, team, stay safe, stay free. We'll see you again real soon.